Call to order the Saturday, April 15th, Town Council Committee of the Whole Special Meeting to order at 9:04.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
I will be recusing myself as I work for the City of Groton Police Department for that line item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I will not be recusing myself, but I just want to state on the record that I am a current city employee.
Thank you.
In no way, form does it affect these line items and functions today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we will be starting with City of Groton 1090. Can start at page 176. And with us from the city, we have the Mayor Keith Hedrick, Finance Director Ron Uhas, the Public Works Director Bill Robarge, and the Chief Eric Jenkins.
I'll move $2,935,880 for the 10900 police line item.
Second, Jones.
Okay, got a motion by Kassiri and a second by Jones. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor Melendez and Town Council members. Thank you for this opportunity to present our budgets this morning. First budget we'll present is the police budget, and I will read the letter that I sent to Town Manager Burke. It says, please find a copy of the city's police budget for FY 2024. The overall police budget for FY 2024 has increased by 3.3% over last year's budget. The increase is driven by personnel costs and benefits. The city has once again requested the town of Groton the customary and traditional payment of 50% of the costs associated with providing public safety to our residents. The request of the town is calculated after the costs associated with the police chief have been subtracted. The FY 2024 funding request is $2,935,880. We're also attaching for informational purposes a copy of the city's capital improvement plan for FYE 2024 through 2029. As it relates to the police department, we look forward to meeting with you to discuss the budget. Sincerely, Keith Hedrick. I will turn it over to the chief in just a minute. In case you do not know, this is the chief's last budget. He will be retiring July 7th. So we wish him well. And like I said, this is his budget, his last budget, and I'll turn it over to Chief. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Melendez, thank you for allowing me to come here. Councilors, good morning. Town Manager John Burke. And nice to see you all again. And congratulations, Councilor Jacome, on your new position. I know you all have been very busy this last few weeks with all the budget presentations. And I would like to thank you for allowing me the time to present the City of Groton Police budget. As you all may know, the City of Groton Police budget, or Groton City Police Department, has been a state-accredited agency since 2015. During the 2022-2023, we went through the reaccreditation process. The process involves extensive reviews of our policies, our facility, our in-house records, and the building itself. On September 14th, 2022, we received our official notification that we once again were awarded reaccreditation status at Tier 1. At the present time, we are working on obtaining Tier 2 accreditation and finally going up to Tier 3 in the near future. We are a very diverse agency, one that I feel accurately represents the community that we serve. Our diversity goes through all levels of our police department from the top down. We employ 29 full-time sworn officers, 4 certified dispatchers, 3 full-time non-sworn staff personnel, 1 part-time non-sworn supportive staff member. We also have a special traffic officer and 1 school crossing guard. The unique difference between the City of Groton Police Department's budget and other departments is that we present to you a fully loaded budget. Some people may call it a fully burdened budget. What this means is that my budget allows full disclosure of all costs related to the operation of the police department and its mission. This includes salaries for all of our officers, all non-sworn personnel, the dispatch center, vehicle purchases, maintenance, fuel costs, training, education, retirement cost, workers' compensation, OPEB, just to name a few. Everything's in our budget. The budget you have in front of you has been reviewed at several different levels and modified as needed in an effort to keep it as lean as possible, while still allowing the police department to complete its mission and function appropriately. We also have to keep up with full mandates in place that placed upon us by accreditation and the Police Accountability Bill. With these steps and reviews in place, we were able to present a budget, I feel, with an increase of only $193,605 over the last year's budget, approximately 3.3% increase. Compared to the national average of 6%, I believe we created a fiscally responsible budget. The increase is driven mainly by non-departmental such as health insurance, pension costs, OPEB, workman's compensation, general liability, as well as contractual obligations such as contractual pay raises, step increases, and so forth. In an effort to mitigate the cost associated with the unfunded mandates put out in the Police Accountability Bill and accreditation, we have utilized our post-certified instructors and trainers in order to keep up with the cost and keep the cost down. Further, we have utilized existing contracts to help control the cost of controlled substance and behavior health assessments required by the Accountability Bill as well. It's a general brief statement, opening statement. I will now open it to any questions that you may have, and I will make every effort to answer them to your satisfaction.
Thank you. Congratulations on a retirement. Great long career. Thank you for your service to the town. Are there any questions from the counselors? Council Bordelon?
Thank you. Thank you for your service and good luck on your next adventure, retirement. Appreciate everything.
Thank you, Councilman.
My quick question is, it was stated, I know that we did receive some correspondence and it was stated that, we're not required, I guess, to fund the city budget like we are our other municipalities like GLP, Mumford Cove that are, they do not have a mayor and they hold functioning government. So they are true, outside, within our scope of government. So I'm not saying I'm not going to fund it, but I just wanted to understand what the requirements were, Town Manager Burke.
My understanding is we're not legally required. However, if we weren't to fund it, we would have to look at the staffing levels of the town department to cover the area.
But they could choose to increase their budget to cover that as well if they chose, right?
They could.
Yeah, okay, so we're not required. I just think that that should be on the record and stated, and I guess I didn't realize that entirely either. I understand that you say your budget's cost is driving personnel expenditures. If this budget was changed to a different number, I guess, to the city mayor, how would you move funding within your government to support that?
Ask that question again.
So since we're not legally required to pay 50% of the police budget, what if, in fact, in years past, or it's just been kind of a ceremonial thing, what if it was not funded? How would you prepare for that, year to year?
Well, if you look in my letter says customary and traditional payment. For over 50 years, the town has provided 50% of funding. So now to suddenly stop doing that, that could be problematic. In Public Works, we have arbitration that is in the special act that created a city, and it talks about that we can go to arbitration if the city feels that it's been harmed. There is no such there is nothing that tells us what to do, so it would be civil litigation. And so the first thing we would do is we would I would continue to fund the police, because we still need police funding. And then we would evaluate, I would consult with my staff and my attorneys to see what the next step is. I don't want to go down that road, and I don't think we need to go down that road, because we've had a symbiotic relationship in the past. I mean, one of the things, if you, let me go to 167 here. So if you look at District 2 and District 3, the city of Groton, we provide 29% of the tax base. And the two funds that you're going to look at, the two accounts that you're going to look at today, is only 3.8% of the budget. So I feel that this request is fair, and that the town should continue their tradition of providing the 50% of the funding.
For full disclosure, I'm also a city resident, so I'm asking, because I live in the city as well, so it's not just not, residents have asked me. To the town manager, so the percent of this police budget, with our increase, where's the offset? What are we looking at for numbers here? Because I guess it's great, and I think it's been customary, but, it also goes up every year, which I understand with personnel costs. And, I heard you say arbitration, and that's understandable, if that's the direction. I know I don't have the numbers of votes up here. I'm just asking questions from constituents that have asked me, and I'm just doing my due diligence to fully understand how funding, customary, ceremonial things have happened in the past. But my question is, you would think that maybe the city would consider finding a way to fund it, maybe instead of looking for 55%, maybe as an independent, governing body, consider trying to help the taxpayer by maybe contributing 75%. So that way the town side would only have to come up with 25%. So it's just, I'm just trying to see, just because things were done, as we know historically, a lot of bad things have been done over the years that we have now changed our look on and realized that they weren't right, and we've changed. So sometimes just because things happen doesn't mean that they're exactly, accurate or custom, to, we should look towards change of helping to decrease our tax base for our residents. So I guess the town manager, what changes could be made? Do we just keep moving forward and customary saying, because this is what's been done, or have we had a hard-looking conversation where we looked at ways to try to decrease budget versus just saying, it just happened in the past? And I'll take my second turn after. Thank you.
I know it's been looked at in the past, and it's not that you can dictate their cuts, it'd be, just looking at the numbers. However, I think the reason it's set at 50 is if they weren't providing their own service, we would be paying at least that much ourselves to cover that. So I think 50% is a fair amount.
And as a city resident, I'm sure you're aware that all residents from the Mystic River to the Thames River pay town taxes, including the city of Groton. So the city of Groton taxpayers are paying part of this. So it's not just Groton, not other Groton taxpayers. Also, as a city of Groton resident, I hope that you understand that this would possibly increase your taxes in the city of Groton, and it could increase the taxes in the town. So that's that comment.
I just have a point of information.
No, Counselor Franco, you have the floor.
Thank you.
I'll just take my second turn.
I'm sorry I can't be there, and I'm not feeling as well, very well, so.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have a question about your police, and do you have a social worker?
We do not at this point, no, ma'am.
Are you interested in attaining a social worker?
In the past, we have used mobile outreach, Southeastern Connecticut Mental Health, for all our needs. We have had a discussion just the last week with the mayor in discussing getting a social worker, and that is the direction we're looking at, because we have seen a slight increase on incidences that this social worker would be greatly needed or appreciated. So we are looking into that. Yes, ma'am.
Because the town has done so, and from what I'm understanding, it's been very successful, and the person we have in that position is extremely busy to the point where we're adding on another.
Correct.
Using different aspects. So I think it would be interesting that maybe the city would try and attain a social worker as well. And how are you on your training? I brought this up to the town police as well, and the officers, that what I've heard from them is that they would like to have more hands-on training, not so much, desk work training, and, how to deal with, force and things of that nature. And if you're potentially a smaller in stature officer, how to, learn your muscle memory and feel confident in that way. Do you think how are you doing with your training?
Our training cost fluctuates up and down. We're always meet all of our budget, and we utilize all of our training budget. There are times that we exceed our training budget because training is always good. We would like to have well-trained officers in a wide variety of areas. We do keep up with our mandates. There's, I don't want to say a want and a need, or like and a need, but we keep up with all of our needed training. But there is training out there that we would like to have, which would be cell phone information, dumps, polygraphers. If we had our own in-house polygrapher, then we would not have to spend money to go get polygraphs for our new applicants that we put out there. So we would like more training. If we had more funding, we would do a lot more training in my mind. Training is a greatly needed aspect of police work to ensure that all our officers are up to the current laws, the current new ways of dealing with people, and how to de-escalate situations. So I am always open to more training and any funding we can get for that.
Yes, I'm a big advocate for that. I also heard the conversation. I'm not exactly sure how much time I have, so if somebody could just give me a heads up when I'm almost close. I'm also a big advocate for the police and how they're dealing with the community. So I think more training, especially since you have a lot of new people I've seen. You've been hiring a lot of new people, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Have you been hiring a lot of new officers?
We are down 2 officers. We just got one out of the academy. He just graduated 2 weeks ago. We brought on another one, the last graduating class. So we are continually looking to hire officers. One thing that we will do is, as a department and an agency in the town, we are not going to lower any standards that we have. So we look for the best officers, best individuals that we can hire. The pool is down. Not too many individuals wish to be law enforcement officers at this time, although we do get them. A lot of times we will have to tell them no due to some information that they may have brought up in their polygraphs or their psychologicals. Again, we do a great deal of doing background information on these individuals, so we would like to make sure we have them, the best ones available. So we are still down 2, and we've been down 2 officers for approximately a year now. So we're trying.
Thank you. And when it comes to your budget, I think the topic that's been brought up, that you pay for your budget more with city taxpayer dollars, I'm not in favor of that. If you look at how our taxes work, if you look at the city, you have the base of a very heavy tax load that we've received at the town, and we're giving back to that, your community, some of the issues that you need. Because I think that, I'm not sure exactly legalities, but if we went down that kind of road and the city actually broke away from the town, it would be quite devastating to the town's financial budget. And
30 seconds remain.
Thank you. You have Pfizer and Electric both that pay a very hefty sum to the town, and I think if we didn't pay for your police, I think it would probably become the town's responsibility to pay for the police, I would think. Because nobody says that the city has to pay for the police, am I correct?
Is that for you?
Yes, that's correct.
So nobody's saying that you have to pay for them in your budget. It would then become the town's responsibility, is that correct?
To my knowledge, is that right? To my knowledge, yes.
Just to make it clear, though, then the the town could choose to take over services, though, if the city didn't fund it
Cor-
at all, yeah.
That's correct. If the city decided not to fund it all and then the town funded it, then the town would dictate services. And I'm not interested in that because there are services that we require as a result of who we are in the city, as a result of the two large organizations that we have with the numbers of people. When you start out in the morning, we start out between 9,500 and 10,000 people. And by the middle of the day, we're up an additional 15,000 people. So that's pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, accidents occur, other issues occur. We also have within our populations different needs in different areas of the city. And we are currently policing to meet those needs. So
Mr. Byrd, are you saying that if we chose not to fund them, that we would take over all their services?
No, I'm saying if they didn't fund it, if they chose not to fund any of theirs.
I'm asking if we chose not to fund it though,
Um,
in their budget.
I think we'd have to see how the city reacts legally. And just another thing, I forgive me if I misheard this earlier. I thought I heard a comment about this, that GLP is treated differently than the city on police. It's not, it's the same thing where it's historically been that, but it's not a requirement. So just to make it clear, those are the same.
I'm not sure how much time I have left.
Your time just expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to ensure that your officers know they are appreciated, they are respected, and they are supported. Because if we are having these conversations about not funding the police budget, it could create people to start to look elsewhere. And I want the great officers of the city of Groton to know exactly how they are respected, and I want them to stay where they are. These types of conversations can cause that, as I've seen it. So as a council, we need to send the message that we do support them. I feel it is my due diligence to make sure the city residents have the same level of outstanding police service that it already has. The budget is minimally increasing, a very mild increase of 3.3%, despite contractual raises and despite unfunded state mandates from the Police Accountability Bill. Thank you.
Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Jenkins, congratulations on retirement, and I wish you well, and thank you for the service you've given to the city. And I will echo Councilor Kasiri's comments.
Thank you.
Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. Just to be clear, my questions to ask how it's funded, to understand, is no depiction of the lack of support or understanding or respect that I have. I happen to be friends with several officers on that very diverse police department, which I'm one of the things that I can credit you guys for, is being very diverse in the population that you serve. My question is to understand, and my job as a counselor is to answer all the questions of the constituents. These are questions that were brought to us. There was an email regarding it. I'm asking the questions on the record. Again, I live in the city, and as the mayor stated, I am aware of the taxes I do pay. But my question was, how does the 50% drive? My next question is, you're stating that you guys, I looked at the city budget, you guys are pretty much presenting a level budget this year. Is that correct?
we're presenting, my direction to the department heads was a level services budget and try to minimize the increase. And basically, our increases are due to contractual and non-departmental expenses.
Thank you. And then to the town manager, my thing about GLP, Mumford Cove, and other outside thing is that they don't have an actual, mayor. That's what differentiates them. So it's not a standalone government. It's different in how we fund them. It might be the same, but it's the city has the power in their own government to move monies in a way from their general, their funding that's different than, say, GLP or other little subdivisions that don't have a strong mayor that's elected, and that's the difference. So for me,
It's not really different, it's just a different form of governing. They do have the same ability.
right? But it's still a lot different. All right. So obviously I do support the police department, but I just wanted to ask the questions of how funding is, derived and the directions. I think it is important that, you know, has there ever been a direction where you just don't ask for 50%, so it's always 50% every year, no matter, because it's been the tradition,
Is that question to me?
or whoever from the city?
We will always ask for 50%.
50%. Is there any ways in which that you guys try to, look at ways to, not put the burden in if your revenues or funding? I mean, because you guys also have the Groton utilities, you have, you do make revenues on that, rates have gone up, so I guess it's just other, source. What is your, fund balance currently?
As far as a percentage of expenditures,
Or what do you have in your fund balance currently going into this?
it's roughly 25% of which we're required to keep by the rating agencies. Normally, it's between the 15 and 20%, but because of our, the tax base being so, with Pfizer and EB being just that big portion of our tax base, the rating agencies want us to keep a minimum of 25% around that area. So
And so what's that number?
I believe it's around 6 million.
6 million? All right, thank you. Again, it just is good to always, ask the questions each year to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And again, congratulations on your retirement and, best wishes, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Franco?
Thank you. I'd like to go back over to the social worker aspect. Can you tell me what, would you be able to implement a social worker this year? Do you find it a need in your community, as we've seen in the town?
We could use a social worker. As far as putting them in this year, I would have to move some of the financials around and request some additional funding, possibly from the mayor, to get that in. We've had brief talks about it.
With the intent of possibly adding a social worker next year when we come before the council.
So you were talking about bringing it to the budget next year. Do you think, because I just see how the town uses theirs and how successful it's been. And I just want to try and get you the same kind of services in the city that we have in the town here. And I'm sort of asking, maybe like, do you want to add it to this budget is what I'm basically saying.
It would be nice to have one this year, yes. The issue I would have would be coming up with the other 50% to fund the social worker. That would require me to look at the budget again and see where it would come from, or where I'd have to take money from one area and transfer it to another.
All right. So you would rather just wait till next year, you're saying?
I would enjoy one right now. I mean, I could utilize them right now for the city residents, because I think it's a very, we do have the need. Like I said, the mobile outreach has done great work with us. We do call them at night and they do come in. There are times where they can't come in. They do come in once a week to make rounds and check on people that they have interacted with. But having a social worker on call within the department on a day shift or a second shift, whichever we would find them best suitable to work in, would be a great asset to this department. And we would be able to, bless you, and we'd be able to utilize them for different functions, such as the town does and other police departments. So if I could get one, if I could find, I would have to look at the budget, speak with the mayor, and see if I could come up with at least the 50% to put them on, if the town council was graciously enough to provide the other half of the 50%.
And how much do you think their rate would be, like annual pay?
That I am not aware of. I'd have to check with, I would probably reach out to Chief Fasaro from the town and see what their present rates are. Like I said, we just started talking about this since Mobile Outreach has been doing a good job. So we're in the very infant stages of trying to get one or look into what it's cost and how they would be utilized.
Mr. Burt, would you by any chance have a number for that?
For the social worker position?
Yeah,
Give me a minute.
thank you.
Councilor Franco, I do have a number for 50%. 50% of our social worker would be 34,000. Including pay.
34,000?
Yes.
So that's 68,000 total.
That's just,
Does that include benefits?
It includes FICA, but no.
Not benefits.
So FICA, but no benefits.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we don't calculate them that way per department, so it's not something we can pull up.
No,
all of the pool.
absolutely, I understand. I understand that it's broken out differently in the town budget than it is when we're bringing it here.
So let me ask, and that would be about $68,000. Would that be amicable to you, or do you?
Well, I think like that we just pointed out that that would be just the individual's pay and FICA, is that correct? We would also have to add in any and all benefits, insurance costs, and such as those. So it would probably go up in our budget, because we'd have to pay for those, so it'd be, I don't know what it would round up to be if you add in the amount of benefits that they would be provided, since they would be full-time. I don't know how much that would add to the 68,000.
Mayor Hendrick, would you potentially have a number?
just as a guesstimate, based on not knowing who the individual would be, I would say that your number's more around 100,000 when you add the benefits in with the medical, if it's a full-time position with medical pension and OPEB and the other benefits.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to add 50,000 to their budget.
Second, Bordelon?
Would be $2,985,880.
I've got a motion by Franco and a second by Bordelon for $2,985,880. Okay, you got 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. And as I've stated before, I think having a social worker as a pilot for the past year in our community has been a great thing. It helps with people with all different types of issues going on in our community with the follow-up, and that normally the police wouldn't be able to do. They have been doing follow-ups, and from what I understand, it's been working out very well. And so I hope that the city could also use this, and it would be great. So I really don't have much more to say. I think I've spoken a lot on this. So thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope we can get you the votes for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will absolutely be supporting this motion. We've seen the benefits of having a social worker exclusively for the town police department, and the benefits far outweigh, having to wait for mobile outreach. They're not always available, and you're just going to have the ability to do those follow-ups within your department. I think it's amazing. You're seeing the same increase in mental health calls and opioid addiction calls, correct?
Correct.
So I think this is just an obvious no-brainer. If we're going to provide the town with this service, then we should be providing the city as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Westervelt.
Good morning. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, sir.
As I'm listening to this, this is not something that I can support, simply because you stated that you're looking for it for next year anyway. You were under talks. We're talking about the budget that was proposed, that you prepared to operate for the next year, not the year following that, or not in the future. So this was not an ask as part of the budget. I don't think it's fair to pass that along to the constituents, knowing that you're already planning for it for next year. Moving that timeline up, I don't think is our responsibility. So I absolutely respect everything that you do. I just can't see changing I can't support changing the funding at this time, since you've given us what you consider is necessary to operate for the next year. Thank you.
Councilor McBride.
Good morning and congratulations on your retirement. I would agree with Councilor Westervelt. I feel that the mayor and his administration has put forth this budget. You just recently mentioned you're talking about the social worker, which means in my mind, it would be a little premature to move this forward in next year's budget. But I do support it for next year's budget. I'm all for it. It's needed. The town's done a great job with it, so I'm supportive of it, but not at this point for the reasons that Councilor Westervelt mentioned. Thank you.
I just have a point of information.
Sure.
So the increase, I just might have missed the number. It was 100,000 as they stated as being the increase, and it would be 50,000 increase on our end today. Okay, thank you.
Point of information.
Sure.
If we fund the position for this fiscal year, you will be able to hire a social worker for this fiscal year, correct?
I would be able to look and research one, and I'd have to work with the finance and within my budget to find a position for that, yes. I will not, what I don't want to do is I do not want to lose a police officer's position to fund that.
Understood. But you would be able to hire the social worker this fiscal year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, sorry, apologize.
The city of Groton, I will find the additional $50,000. We'll get a position description set up. We will hire somebody after July 1st for the new fiscal year.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Westervelt?
I do understand that. An additional reason for me not to support this is we put the number out there of $50,000, of $100,000, but that is just what we are funding, kind of what we are expecting that funding to be, but that could change. And if you're going to go start looking for a social worker, it may be 6 months before you hire one, and you'll already be planning for next year's budget anyway. Since all the numbers were not here to support that additional hire, that's just another reason for me to want to step back and wait, let you bring it to us next year when you have all of the facts, all of the figures in front of you. Thank you.
Councilor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, congratulations on your retirement. I'm almost in the similar boat where I completely support your budget that you've requested. Not as much as the social worker. I know you're planning on it. If it's something, obviously, you come to us next year, whoever's on the council. It's definitely something that we need for sure, so that's where I stand now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of information. Have you seen an increase in overdose calls?
We have gone up of overdose, yes. The exact number I do not have, but we have gone up.
And an increase in mental health crisis calls?
Yes, immensely.
Thank you.
Point of information. Are you guys getting any of the opioid funding that the town is getting, or is it coming through the town?
No, it's all coming to the town. So the 169 recognized municipalities, not the boroughs.
And my other point of information to the town manager, could we use these funds, opioid funds, to fund these social workers? Per the guidelines that I read?
You'd want to see the job description, recovery one possibly.
Yeah, perfect. So we could, okay, thank you.
Though, just to say, I generally don't support using grant dollars for an ongoing position.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. I'll call for a vote on $2,985,880. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes. McBride,
No.
Bordelon,
No?
Westervelt,
No.
Jacome.
No.
I have a feeling 4 in favor, 4 opposed. Jeez. All right, I have a feeling 4 in favor, 4 in favor, Melendez, Kasiri, Franco, Jones, 4 opposed, Bordelon, Jacome, McBride, Westervelt, 0 abstaining. So we will move on to voting on $935,880. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes. McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon,
Yes?
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
Okay, I have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council, for your continued support of the police department.
Okay, so now we are on to 10901, highway maintenance. Same page. I will make a motion for $2,771,196.
Second, Jacome.
So that's a motion by Melendez and a second by Jacome.
Yep. Okay. All right, thank you. I will read to you the letter that I sent to Town Manager Burt. Dear Mr. Burt, attached, please find the City of Groton highway budget for FYE 2024. This year, we have an increase of 6.09% in the highway operating budget and 1.3% increase in the total highway budget. Highlights in the budget include the following. The operating budget has an overall increase, 6.09%. This is reflected in the increases in personnel costs, materials and supplies, and the software program for asset infrastructure. Capital requests are as follows. Replace a 2005 Mason dump truck, replace a 1983 compressor, paving of South Prospect Street and Beach Pine Road, engineering construction of traffic calming on Eastern Point Road. The city has once again prepared a budget in accordance with the town's budget practices, so they will be more readily comparable to the town's budget. We are submitting along with our budget backup documents which were requested by the town. One document contains the worksheets which detail the costs included in both personal services and operating expenses. We're also submitting for information purposes a copy of the city's capital improvement plan for FYE 2024 through 29 as it relates to the highway. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Sincerely, Keith Edrick. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Robars, who is the Public Works Director.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, councilors, and good morning, Town Manager. Echoing the mayor's introduction, again, I'm here to present the city's highway budget for fiscal year ending 2024. The mayor mentioned 6.09% in the operating budget and a small increase in the overall budget of 1.3% in a total highway budget. That value is $37,102 of an increase. Increase in the operating budget is tied to administrative costs, salaries, benefits, roads and streets, contractual services, and most importantly, the largest piece is a computerized maintenance management system, which is CityWorks. The cost for that is $105,297. Contractual services also for drainage to resolve problems that we have down at the Four Corners, and that value is $30,000. And that's down at the intersection of Smith, Paquonic, Eastern Point, and Thames. The highway capital budget includes mill and repaving for Beach Pond and South Prospect Road. Again, the two trucks, actually the one truck the mayor mentioned, a 2005 Mason body with the dump truck and the accessories in the back, and a 1983 air compressor that we've been struggling with to maintain, keeping that going. Funding for a traffic study for Eastern Point Road down in front of Electric Boat, and the installation of some traffic calming measures for that area. I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jacome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being with us, Director Robars. The traffic countermeasure, can you talk a little bit about that? And then my second question would just be if you could give us an update on the seawall.
On the seawall as well?
Thank you.
Sure. I'm happy to do that for you. All right. So regarding the traffic study, or the traffic calming down on Eastern Point. We've had, if you can recall, we had a casualty on Eastern Point Road several years ago. We also had another person struck up on Rainville. With the growth of electric boat, and also with the new buildings that they have down there, there's a concern with the volume of people crossing the roads down there. The mayor, myself, and my team, and leadership from the safety group with Electric Boat met more than once down there, and we were down there between the shift changes. We got down there at 5:30 in the morning. We stayed till about 7:30. They have a number of people that start at different periods of time. With the traffic coming from the city and people coming into Electric Boat and to Pfizer, and that intersecting with the people as they cross the road can be very dangerous. So we're looking at bringing in others to do a study for us, but the intent being that we're looking at putting some speed tables, and those are roughly 10 to 12 foot wide, incorporating a crosswalk across those right there. I guess a good example for those would be ones that you would see on the back of Conn College over in New London by the arboretum there, down in that way. You'll also see them down by the train station in New London, and the intent of that is to keep people safe. Again, the traffic table is, the speed table is really nice. It's wide, it allows for a crosswalk, and it works really, really well. We're looking at designs that are based on the National Association of City Traffic and Transportation Officials and a manual for uniform traffic control. So again, looking to increase safety down in that area. I can also speak to you asked about the seawall. We have $2.7 million available to do that repair right now. We are looking to have an RFP go out within the next few months. We would like to have a contractor identified and in place before August, September timeframe. We need to have the cofferdam, which is a temporary seawall, in place before the end of March of next year. So in that, the requirement for that is to have that in place before the eel grasses start developing, and so we don't impact the environment. With that said, we'll get the price. I'll have to, should the price be over $2.7 million, I'll have to request additional funds for that in next year's budget. But the project will be completed during next year, if that helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Bordelon?
Yes, when was someone struck on Rainville? How long ago?
Mayor, do you know that? The person?
About 2 years ago, right? 2 to 3? Somewhere around 2 to 3 years ago.
Does this, I know I had reached out to Heather Summers, Chris Connolly at the time, about 3.5 years ago when I bought my house up on Mirror Drive, and even before that, actually. And the Rainville, I know it's a state road, you have the parking lot for EB right at the bottom of that. And folks, you can see a natural sidewalk happening of people that walk up and down it. And I did send it to the mayor as well. And at the time, he said it was a state road and we'd have to try to seek funding. Is that going to help put a sidewalk in this budget or no? No.
Actually, we didn't fund that this year. We are working, so I've met with the equal position for myself with the state. We've looked at that. We are trying to see if we can get funding through the state to pay for that, and that would be down the lower Rainville part. That would include sidewalks to go down that way. That would also include traffic controls down at the bottom, so push-button crosswalks, and that's actively working on that.
It's extremely outdated. I'm actually sad to see it not in this budget, considering the fact that someone was killed there 2 years ago. And this is something I had brought up because of the, excuse me, I'm speaking, thank you. The concerns, without having a sidewalk there, when that road is plowed, people have to walk on the road, and so part of the safety is the concern down there. There is a button at the end on the far side with no sidewalk and no sidewalk on that side and no crosswalk. So if there is a chance that they're gonna be working toward this, maybe we can get them to put the sidewalk in the meantime, I mean, the crosswalk, at minimum, but definitely a major safety concern. I do think it's important that we maintain our streets and the safety, especially the community that brings in a large tax base. We constantly are talking about how EB brings in a ton of money to support the city and the town of Groton. Well, then we have to show them that we support them, like we said, the police. Give them some sidewalks to walk on that are plowable, making sure that they have these safety stops in here when they come into the town. And for the people who live in the city, to make sure that we are safe. I want to walk on my neighborhood and feel safe walking up Rainville myself, because it's a short point to get to Eastern Point if I want to go that way. If I come out and go left on the town side, I'm right in the middle of the line there. There's no sidewalks to get to Thomas Road. There's the bike path, but that whole stretch is missing. Walkable communities and our streets being safe for not only pedestrians but walkers. The city roads are highly used because, again, people don't want to necessarily live where they work sometimes, so there's a lot of traffic coming and going. And making that accessible via bike trails, sidewalks, and roads, infrastructures are extremely important. So is there a way that you guys could have can you fund that sidewalk with the agreement from the state if they refuse not to fund it, is my question?
Out of the current budget, I could not fund that.
But you could if it was not, like you have the ability to.
We could.
No.
Yeah, okay.
So let me clarify a couple of things. You're talking about Rainville, we're talking about Eastern Point Road. So the project that we have in here now is for Eastern Point Road. Eastern Point Road is directly in front of Electric Boat. This is down near the M line. That is on a state road. We looked at funding it, we looked at coming to the town, putting it as a CIP, and then we talked to our risk managers and talked to our attorneys. And what I am going to do is I'm going to push the state to put a crosswalk there and to fix that light, the cross light there, because that is their responsibility and they should do that. I have been communicating with my representatives and with Senator Summers because it is a state responsibility. The concern that our risk managers have is that if the city puts a sidewalk there, takes responsibility for the sidewalk with the water that comes out of the ledge in the wintertime, if you get freezing there and black ice and someone slips and gets injured, then the city owns that. So that is a concern that we're looking at. It is something we're evaluating. And my preference is to have the state meet their obligations and put a sidewalk there.
I was aware that, thank you. I was aware about the other project. I was just asking about this project, which is near and dear to me and the constituents in that area, because that parking lot has been there for years. The problem has been more than decades. So it's sad that it's still sitting in disarray. Rainville needs a sidewalk and proper utilization, and that was one of the things that I spoke very openly about. I've sent you the emails, they're all in here, and I'm hoping we can get that funded. I also agree the other one is also a problem. But Rainville, I don't care who funds it. Someone own it, and let's protect the people. We're worried about ice, I'm worried about death. Thank you.
I'll speak quickly. So my equal with the state, and I've had a good relationship with him, he's a city resident. We've spoken about this several times, so it's something that is not dead. We're working on it.
Councilor Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no death on Rainville, correct? I just want to say that out loud, because I do not believe it was there.
That's correct.
Thank you. And this is a level budget. You're trying to make everything safe, especially with the EB workers and the residents that live by Eastern Point. I'm in full favor of this budget as is, and thank you for presenting.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. So I only took the direction I asked. I clarified, was it Rainville? And they said yes, so if it wasn't, then, but there could be a death on that road. Outside of EB and Pfizer employees walking from the parking lot that's been there for over 20 years, I think I learned to drive a Standard in that parking lot. It's been there so long. EB employees overwhelmingly have said to me, we want to feel supported. They don't want to get to work with wet feet. They want to be able to get up that thing, that road, in a manner in which they can get there safely. Also, the sidewalk comes down on that one side, only halfway. From a handicap ADA standard compliance, you have a moderate income housing complex right there, which feeds from a lower income complex coming all the way down, which, you know, feeds out from another neighborhood. The shortest path for people to get to the grocery store or walk to work if they don't have a vehicle is to come down Rainville. Come past Pequannock Road and head to
Point of
CVS to
information?
pick up prescriptions. So having that sidewalk complete for Rainville is such a priority, not only for EB workers, but for connectability for folks who may be low or moderate income. Also for, when we look at the environmental standpoint, you want to be able to take your bike or walk sometimes and have that flexibility. The winters are treacherous over there, again, on a hill, cars are sliding, and you have people trying to walk up the hill. And that is the shortest path, because if you go down Clarence, there's nowhere to walk, so you have to come down that way. That is one of the shorter paths. So anything we can do, and any way that I can support that referral that I had sent to the mayor 3.5 years ago, and, you know, I think we could get it going. Is there a way that this could be funded if the state gets back to you guys, you know, sooner than later? Is there any other way? I mean, do you need people to come out and speak about it? You know, how can we get that one moving and maybe get it funded?
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
We're discussing this budget item, not the additional item. They already said that it's a state road and they're already working on it. So can we stick with what on the budget, please?
Yeah, the question can be answered, but please just.
I am sticking to the budget. I know people added
She's
other
already-
Council
budget
Borland.
items.
Mr. Mayor?
Council Borland.
Right, I understand.
She's
but I
already
am
asked
sticking
that
to it.
question.
I
She
have already
already
asked
asked
it
it.
again.
So
Thank you.
it could be discussed part of this budget if it can be added to this budget.
So I can move
So-
on. or-
Mr. Mayor, she's already asked the question twice.
I understand.
So
I understand.
It's their second time, and it's a redundant question.
Can you, is it a possibility that this item be added to this budget this year? Is this a possibility?
No, because at this
Okay.
time, the city is not looking at putting a sidewalk
Okay.
in. I tried to explain that this is a state responsibility,
Okay,
and the state needs to put this sidewalk in.
okay.
And because of the liability associated with the city, and I'm sure you understand that all, I'm not looking at doing that right now.
Okay, so thank you. So this would be considered something that is off topic then?
It was stated, the gentleman in the middle stated that it could be
The mayor has
funded.
just stated that there's no possibility for this to be added to the budget
With
this
all,
year.
with all due respect and clarification, and I'm being as respectful as possible. It was stated that there was something not in the budget and a person put something on.
Okay.
So if we were to move a number differently, it could be funded by the city, correct?
Okay. With all due respect, the
Yeah.
mayor just said.
He's choosing not to, but it could be
I
funded.
have a point of
All right,
order.
that's
Council Franco, what's your point of order?
Point of orders are not debatable.
Council Franco, what is your point of order?
Point of order is not debatable. It's supposed to be ruled on, and if you rule against it, there is a process.
Right. Thank you.
All right, I'll just finish my, you agreed on?
Okay, but that project is
Sure,
off
it's
topic.
fine. So it's a choice that they're not funding it. I got it.
It's off topic.
Thank you. Again, street safety, sidewalks are important throughout our community. Road safety is important for accessibility throughout the whole district of the city, all roads included. And I just think that we need to move in a more aggressive manner and have better oversight in which that, that sidewalk down at the end of Rainville and other roads that are missing things haven't been, those didn't happen overnight. So I guess my process is, do you guys have enough people in your budget here to maintain what the structures that you guys have in oversight?
Correct.
And then my other question with the other road that you guys are seeking down on Eastern Point, you can fund that in your budget, or you can get state funding as well?
We requested money for the capital to do that portion of the work, and that truly is in support of the road directly right in front of Electric Boat. And that's where that piece is. We're probably looking at 2 to 3 speed tables in that area, based on the entrance going into the gates. So the new buildings that are down there. So the bottom of the hill, that would be main gate, the top gate, which is the south gate. And then there's 2 new buildings up at the top, Building 600 and Building 605, where I believe they're going to also have something up there. But that road turns into state, so we'll be working with the state. So I'm really looking at 3, but the study will look at that whole piece.
Thank you, and just hoping that any chance, when you do renovate any of these roads throughout the city, that you're doing the ADA compliance with the rigid edges and the sounding on all of the push buttons as well, just to make sure that we're, getting up to code. Thank you.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm seeing none. So I'll call for a vote on $2,771,196. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon.
Yes.
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
Okay. So I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, council, for your continued support of Public Works.
Thank you. We have one more item in this city line, but it's actually a town line. It's just presented in their budget. It's our budget line. So we will move on to 10904.
I make a motion for $113,848.
Second, Jones?
Okay, so I got a motion by Parker and a second by Jones for $113,848.
Just to mention, this is just us tracking our costs for streetlights within the city. It's our pay, what we have to pay.
Right. Thank you. Any questions? Council Borderline, we're about to vote.
I'm also,
All right.
I'll say.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Westervelt,
Yes.
and Jacome.
Yes.
Bordelon not present. Okay. That carries 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you, council. Good luck today. And thank you for your support.
All right, so we will move on to Groton Long Point. Here we have President Amanda Gallagher, Office Manager Andrea Frickman, Public Works Director Glenn Lucier, and Chief David Knowles. Welcome, everyone. Groton Long Point can be found on page 179. And we will begin with 10910 Police.
I'll move $371,050.
Second, Parker.
Motion by Kasiri, second by Parker. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Melendez and esteemed town councilors. Thank you for considering our request. We are requesting $371,050 for fiscal year '24. That is 50% of our budget, absent the chief's salary and benefits. Groton Long Point fully funds that itself. I will turn the rest over to Chief Knowles, who has far more information about this than I do.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Burt, councilors. Nice to see you again. Just want to reintroduce myself before I get into the budget. I've been the chief of Groton Long Point since August of 2018. Prior to that, I retired from Stonington after 31 years in policing and served 2 years as the account manager for Securitas at Pfizer. I hold a bachelor's degree in biology and a master's degree in computer information systems. I live in Stonington with my wife, where we reared 4 kids who are now adults, and I did this on a police officer's salary. So when it comes to the value of a dollar, I understand and respect every penny, whether it's mine or belongs to someone else. That said, I appreciate all your support when it comes to providing funding for my budget. We all faced increases. As noted by Mr. Burt, town increase is more of the personnel, which attributes to quite a bit of the cost of the increases. Along with that, the gas, the fuel, and the maintaining of the department, and so on and so forth, training. My request for $29,000 increase also reflects those increases. And to go further, we'll be undertaking negotiations with our police union, and there definitely will be an increase in the salaries. There are contractual requirements with professional relationships, including the Connecticut Police Chiefs, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Law Enforcement Council, a newly acquired contract we have with Power DMS, which is part of the accountability, and we'll get into that. Our EAP, and our online training. There are the accountability law of the unfunded mandates, such as the anabolic steroid testing, and in maintaining our post-certifications, mental health and wellness examinations, camera equipment and maintenance, our training, and in the accreditation of costs associated with the accountability law. My budget request is straightforward, line by line, and transparent. There is no fat. It's just what is necessary to provide professional level of policing for Groton Long Point, and when requested, to assist the town and other departments requiring mutual aid. And just a point of information, my daughter does own a business in Groton, so we try to keep it low. With that, I ask you if you have any questions, you please.
Thank you. Any questions? Council Franco?
Thank you. As I've discussed with all the other police departments, do you utilize, I know you're a smaller force, so I'm wondering, do you utilize the town police if you need social workers for any reason?
Good question. I had a conversation prior to the hiring of the counselor with Chief Uzaro, and he offered her services to us when needed. So if I do need their counseling people, I do have access to it.
All right, that's really good to know. And I would encourage you that if you do happen to need it, that you would make that phone call, because I hear that they're working and doing good things.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that they're quite on call, because if you've listened to the radio at all, you've heard the number of mental health calls and wellness calls that the town has fielded in the last year or so. So we do have that open to us.
Yes, I have, and I think social workers are very important in the ways in the aspects that they're working with the police departments, and I'm really happy that the town has done that and that you have that accessibility now.
Yeah, we have a very good working relationship with the town.
Well, that's good to hear. So with your training with the police officers, as I've heard, there's a lot of desk training. Are you also utilizing and getting a lot of physical training as well with them?
We are. As a matter of fact, I have a part-time officer who's taken on our training position, who has an excellent working relationship with the town, and we've done several trainings with the town, and we do have upcoming training with the town. In addition to that, to try to keep our costs low, we've contracted with Post University, who provides online police training for our continued post-certification. So we can do that, via computer, and it's online training. So we do have a real good working relationship, like I said, with the town, and the chief there has opened his arms for us. So we're good with that.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate that. How are your roads maintaining?
I'm sorry?
Road maintenance? Are we just on a police budget right this second?
Yeah, just police.
Just the police. All right, I'll wait for that one. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Council Kasiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Chief. Did you say you're onboarding Power DMS right now?
We are utilizing Power DMS. Right now, being a small agency, I am the accreditation manager.
Okay.
And I have been rewriting our policies to fit the standards, and we've been putting those into Power DMS.
That was going to be my next question, if you're in the process of accreditation right now.
We are. We're doing Tier 1. We're pretty close, and we don't have our on-site assessment until December. So hopefully I can get this all worked out during the summertime and as we go on. It's a long process.
I understand. Good luck with your accreditation process. And I just wanted to clarify that you really have no choice in, onboarding with Power DMS because this is really the police accountability bill that's ensuring that.
That is
you're-
correct. And they offer a great platform to allow the officers access to policies and procedures out in the field. In addition to that, the accreditation itself, that module within Power DMS is something that we provide access to other agencies if necessary, especially the academy, so that they can go in and do our on-site online accreditation prior to coming and doing the on-site assessment.
Great. I think this is a very reasonable budget with the increase in personnel costs from contractual obligations and with the unfunded mandates from the state accountability bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you for coming out. I appreciate all your work. Yeah, I think it is important in the subdivisions where there's not a strong government to make sure that you guys have your service covered. You guys have folks who stand in boards and stuff, but you guys are not a full functioning municipality, and that's where I was making the differentiation, because there's certain things. Are you guys able to apply for certain grants and funds, like, say, the town and the city, or do you have to go through the town for yours?
No, we can apply for grants,
We can apply.
and we have, to try to keep costs low. We have the JAG grant, the Justice Grant, that we apply for about every year or so. And it's a pass-through grant, so it provides us the opportunity to get equipment that we couldn't otherwise have.
Yeah. And can you just speak a little bit to, like, what you guys offer as far as services being, primarily surrounded by water, and responding? Do you guys have vehicles and things to help with water rescue? And
We have two ATVs. One of them is equipped with a, trying to think of what it is, infrared. We have an infrared camera so that we have a conservation area, as well as it connects to Haley Farm. That ATV can go anywhere, and that infrared camera can pick up, movement that we wouldn't otherwise see, especially at night. It feeds to a laptop that we can put into the ATV, and consequently, we can, see the movement, and it picks up the heat signal of, live animals, people, so on and so forth. So if we lose anybody in our conservation area, or even if we get called out to Haley Farm, we can take that right up the road. They're registered, and we can utilize them that way. In addition to that, covering the beaches with the ATVs, we can do that.
do you guys have any boating or water rescue equipment?
We have, so our fire department is part of the port, and we, through a grant, were able to obtain a very advanced fire boat, which pretty much responds to anything on the water. For example, the two gentlemen that were killed in the Stonington incident there, our boat responded to that. I don't think they responded to the fire over in Mystic, because that was the Mystic fire. They had that all set, and plus it wasn't on the water. But other incidences that have happened on the water, our fire department will respond to that.
There was a collision last summer off of North Dumpling, and our boat was one of the boats that responded to that.
They're all part of the port.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Do you feel a need for more water rescue vehicles being, in the area that you are,
Well, it's always nice to have a boat for the police, but on the other side of that, we have full access to the fire department. We have, actually, he's a retired admiral who lives in Groton Long Point, who is the fire chief, who runs the fire department boat. So if we need to respond, we have pretty good response, pretty quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, so I'm seeing none. So I will call for a vote on $371,050. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Counselor Parker,
Yes.
Franco, Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon.
Yes?
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
Okay, so I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to 10911, highway maintenance. I will make a motion for $260,500.
Second?
Moved by Melendez, second by Bordelon. And that's for the highway maintenance.
Thank you, Mayor. As we stated in our letter, Groton Long Point has 8 miles of roads, and we manage them through a volunteer director, effective use of subcontractors, and competitive bidding process. Glenn Lucier here is our director and has done a great job in keeping our budget lean and efficient. So I welcome any questions.
All right. Any questions? Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming here today. Is the Groton Long Point able to access our new resiliency person? Being that you're a
Yes,
coastal-
we've actually been in contact with your resiliency person, and we're in the process of funding our own vulnerability and resilience plan, which we hope to have done in October.
So, I mean, you basically have a coastline all the way around your
Oh,
entire.
yeah, yeah.
So I think
Every time it rains,
resiliency
we know that.
is key to your, and, you know, it's coming up. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to get wet. All right, that's all. I just want to make sure you're accessing the services that we have.
We are, and she's been helpful.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. Any concerns or with your highway road? I know this is not in this budget because it's going to be something that's going to be done with the town of the state for the bridge.
So-
Is there any road, the sidewalk connectability? I'm talking about the sidewalk that
I
connects to the
understand,
bridge.
but, okay.
Let me finish,
If you're gonna,
please.
my only ask, if you're gonna talk about something, do not talk about something that's not in this budget.
All right,
Because
please do
you
not,
just said that.
please do not reprimand me. I was not going to.
Counselor Bordelon.
I'm
you ju-
speaking about a bridge.
I'm sorry, I have the floor.
And-
Just 1 second.
Go ahead.
Just 1 second. You started your comments by saying,
Let me
I
finish.
understand that this is not in this
Let me
budget.
finish.
All I'm asking is that you do not discuss anything that's not in this budget. Thank you.
Perfect. Allow me the chance to finish. So the bridge, which I'm not going to discuss because it's not in this budget, and then I was going to say, if I was always just given the chance to breathe for 5 minutes, that the sidewalk that will connect to that eventually, when they redo it, that's not part of the state thing, with the possibility of the new, it looks like they're going to try to go up pretty high. I know I don't have any direct numbers. Are you guys seeing any projected needs or concerns with the sidewalks and roadways that you're going to be responsible for once this new possible bridge comes in? That's where I was going. So is it going to change because I'm hearing the height is going to be quite high, and so I just didn't know what that's going to do with the lay of the roading beyond that. That's what I was trying to get to.
Sorry, the roading on Groton Long Point Road,
Yes.
or?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that there is a dispute over who owns that portion of the road, whether it's Groton Long Point or Town of Groton. We are still trying to get our hands around what the current bridge proposal looks like, since it seems to be changing. Obviously, now the state has taken it over, and where that sidewalk will be located, whether it's going to be on the south side of the road or the north side of the road. It's something we're looking into. It's not something we're looking at for this budget.
Yeah, okay. All right, and I just was warning, like with this budget, any repairs to that area, just with the change, if they're gonna start to think of, I didn't want you guys to, if it changes, you guys might have to do some extra work. I don't know. I just didn't want you guys to kind of lose out on.
Nothing in this budget would be associated with that.
All right, perfect. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussions? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. On $260,500, Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon.
Yes?
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
All right, I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just like the last one, street lighting is a town function. So for 10912, I'll make a motion for 15,358.
Second, Bordelon?
Moved by Melendez, second by Bordelon. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon, Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay. 8. Okay, on to the fire districts. 1 second, let me get myself organized here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Are we doing this individually?
We don't
It's
typically
never
do
been
it.
done.
Yeah, we don't
I just
typically
wanna
know.
So the public knows why we're doing this.
Okay. This is 1092, begins on page 182.
Make a motion for $405,173.
Second, Bordelon?
405,173,000. That's motion by Parker and seconded by Bordelon. All right, and we have some representatives here. The fire chiefs, welcome.
Good morning to the mayor, town councilors, town manager. Just to introduce myself real quick, I'm Tim Driscoll, the chief of the Quantic Ridge Fire District, and Jeff Duchette, who's the deputy fire chief. I won't go into our background other than we both started as firefighters, worked our way up through, and now we're the top 2 officers in the department. I know we're discussing the pilot funding from the town, and honestly, we can only speak on behalf of the Quantic Ridge Fire District. I cannot speak on behalf of the other fire districts. I do greatly appreciate the increase in this line. Personally, I feel it's long overdue, and I thank the town manager for implementing it. I have tons and tons and tons of figures that I could put forward to you. Unfortunately, it's such a vast amount of information that it has a tendency of confusing the issue. So I sit before you right now to answer any questions you want to throw at me. I would think it would be easier to do that. Part of the issue that I have is I've been doing this for over 38 years now, and my whole being is public safety. It's very difficult for me to start talking about dollars and cents because the reality is the number is 1. The number is 1. One person dies, one person gets severely injured, that's all that matters. It's a moral and ethical dilemma that I deal with every single day. Currently, my proposed budget for the Quantic Ridge Fire District, which is 100% funded by Groton taxpayers, town of Groton taxpayers. My district is over 12 square miles. It encompasses the entire town of Groton, not Stonington Borough, not Groton Long Point, the town of Groton. My budget is $5,563,800. It's a 2.42% increase from last year. Those increases are salaries, a slight increase in salaries. The biggest increases that I'm having, quite frankly, are consumable supplies. Fuel oil, electricity is through the ceiling. My budget is 83% personnel costs, because the fact is, it isn't the pretty fire trucks and fire engines that get on the fire ground, it's the bodies, certified, qualified people. Our mill rate per proposal for the Quantic Ridge Fire District taxpayers will be 5.1 mills. Total increase in my budget is $131,210. That's my increase, $131,000. We're going to do roughly 2,300, 2,400 emergencies this year. Last year was the busiest year I've ever had in the fire service, of over 42 major fires that we went to, 42. I run with 5 guys, 4 firefighters, 1 captain. I'll put that up against any city department in the country, from Mystics major fire at the Marine to Third Alarms in East Lyme, Second Alarms in the city of New London. We are by far incredibly, incredibly busy. So I'm not sure what I can help you with today, but I sit before you completely transparent. Some of you people know me. I'm pretty much a straight shooter, so I guess if you have any questions, I would like to see more money, that I will tell you. The amount of money that we need, 45% of my fire district is what I'm able to collect taxes on, 45%. The other 65% is either owned by the town, the state, or the city, and it's free. And I've heard today about EB and Pfizer. If the town was to lose EB and Pfizer, those are your top 2 taxpayers, I'm assuming. Well, the state of Connecticut and the town of Groton are my top 2 taxpayers, and I don't collect a penny from you in taxes. I do collect a pilot, and it is greatly appreciated, but it is greatly underfunded. The city of Groton is my number 7, and honestly, those numbers are skewed because I was only able to get those numbers from the tax assessor's office. That is the land and the building only. That doesn't include any of the personal property inside. So the city of Groton at number 7 would easily be well into my top 5. And I can't collect a penny of taxes. I do pay fees to the town for collecting my taxes, and I pay $100,000 a year to rent hydrants to the city of Groton, of which 5 years ago, we used one of the hydrants to put a fire out in the city of Groton property. The water that was discussed during the data center discussions, the water, we protect that. Paquonic Bridge Fire District protects that. We protect that over 100 times a year with either car accidents or fires or anything along those lines. I was brought up actually with Representative Baumgartner asked me, we were talking the other day, and we had a plane crash 7 years ago with Paquonic Bridge River on fire. Tactics were put in place where we allowed that fire to burn out in the river because of our training, because of our knowledge, because we knew that was the best thing to do. Could you imagine if we weren't trained and qualified to the extent that we are and dumped over 500 gallons of AFFF foam with all that PFAS into the Paquonic River? The environmental disaster that we prevented, that's what we give to the town. That's who we are. So I guess I'm bragging, so I apologize for that.
You can see a little history of the fire pilot or how it's broken down on page 182, but just going to mention, this has been a stagnant budget for long before I got here. And there was an original formula for how that was arrived at, and as far as we can tell, that was never really followed in the first place. Our pilot dollars we receive, which is not designated fire, but it goes up and down every year. However, we've never changed what we pay to the departments. Just so you get an idea of what we get for just pilot dollars, in '22, we received a little over 1.7 million. This year, almost 2.5. It's a big jump for this year. And right now, we're using just what the governor has in his budget for 24, 1.5 million. So we'll see what we actually get, because this year's did come in higher. And where I arrived at the numbers, and this has come up repeatedly over the years. There's been all kinds of talks with councils prior, and I've had many talks with the fire department. So what I did was, and this will be going to Public Safety Committee soon too for future budgets and how it should be. I think this is sort of a starting step. But it's an increase for Paquonic Bridge, 100,000. I sort of, I'm very sympathetic to the amount of non-taxable land they have. It's much greater than other districts. I raised it by 100,000, keeping in mind the GU rental of 100,000 is sort of what my basis for it was. And then the others, because they all go up in costs and have these, to a lesser extent, these challenges, I prorated what the others got so that you have an equal increase compared to what Paquonic Bridge was receiving.
Thank you. Councilor Franco?
Thank you. I had made the council referral to the Public Safety Committee back in February of 2022 regarding pilot funding. So we could go through all this and discuss everything in relation to these numbers. It seems as though, as like Mr. Burt had said, these numbers have been stagnant for years. We bring in pilot money from the state. There's also, is there any chance that we give town money in lieu of taxes? Because that's a state pilot funding. Do we do anything like this with the town?
Well, I'm not quite clear, but in what you're saying, but in terms of what we provide them, it's partly based on what we receive for overall pilot dollars, which pays us back also for our non-taxable land. But we also just generally, on the side, also there was a formula for giving outside of just directly from the general fund, so a couple pieces to it.
All right, so I guess we'll be diving into this when we finally have a meeting on this, the safety committee. I have always been an advocate for the fire departments, and I think this funding is a bit low myself. And I hope that we can have a discussion and dive into this and figure out maybe what's the best routes forward. As I believe Quonic Bridge, I mean, I appreciate all fire departments, but I do know Quonic Bridge, I mean, on the town side of things, they do a lot, and they cover all the other departments as well with their paid force. So, and as constituents constantly tell us, they pay the highest mill rate. And I think that's a little telling sign that maybe we should definitely be looking at Quonic Bridge, potentially even a little different than some of the other districts. So I look forward to this, and I will be passing these funds today, but I look forward to seeing what other possibilities we can do. Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you for all that you do. And I think you guys you'll provide a vital role. And I know when a fire broke out in my neighborhood a couple of years ago, or it might have been 2 years ago, everybody was there all night. I mean, and from the Navy to Connect to, and it was in the city side, you guys were there, and it's really important. What I constantly keep hearing, though, is that the tax burden to the Pequannock village tax base, overwhelmingly per capita, if you start breaking down like home ownership, home value, and income revenue, they are not the higher income area of our community, yet they're paying the highest taxes. So I guess my question to the town manager is, how do we support our fire district, but make sure that our community in that area is not being taxed so high that some folks have said they don't want to get the trash removal because it's too expensive for them? I mean, because their taxes keep going up. I know folks spoke about blight and all the other things. I think we need to find a way to support the community. So how in this budget, and if we can't do it this time, how do we find a way to support the taxpayers also while supporting the fire district?
Well, by doing this, that's how you're supporting the taxpayers there, by offsetting what they have to put through their mill rate. Then the more we give, the less it reduces the burden on those solely within that
So this
district.
increase, what will that change for them in this coming year?
The $100,000 increase,
Yeah.
it's not even going to cover it's barely going to cover my hydrant rental, and it's not going to cover my increase in my budget.
So
Trust me, I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. I'm appreciating every penny I get, but
What's your budget again?
$5.5 million.
So this 100,000 is not going to change the taxpayers' mill rate?
Part of the problem is this is such a complicated feature in fire service. So Pleasant Valley Fire District has some town property. It has an abandoned school, basically. So not to devalue it, but there's a big difference between that school that's vacant and Fitch Senior High School, with a life loss and what I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for virtually all the schools, except for maybe 2 or 3. The problem starts being is that when only 45% of my fire district has to pay 100% of my bill, and you're 100% right. My fire district, Fort Hill Homes, Ring Drive, Winthrop Estates, High Rock Trailer Park, I can go on and on. We have been championing this cause for so long, and honestly, it's been, a deaf ear has been turned on it. But frankly, it really has been. The fact that you guys are even listening to me is miles and miles and miles of strides ahead, and what the town manager is proposing is astronomical, but for us, we need money. Honestly, we need money. It's like I said, if you took away EB and Pfizer, what's going to happen to you, the town? It'd be devastating. I'm living that because my 2 highest taxpayers aren't paying taxes.
And who are your two highest paid taxpayers?
State of Connecticut and town of Groton.
Yeah, if that was all taxable property.
And what's your third?
My 3rd highest is the Ledges, Country Glen Apartments, La Triumph, and then number 7 would be Groton Utilities. But again, Groton Utilities is going to go up because if I can tax their personal property in there, it'll probably be my number 3. Because Groton Utilities is the reservoir and all that property in there. So that's my problem, is that non-taxable properties.
So it's like your demographics and your location by default affects your rate.
Yes.
So if you were moved to a different area and called something different, but still did the same coverage, it would change, I mean.
If we could tax, Groton Long Point can tax 100% of their property. If we could tax 100% of our property, we would need a dime.
If I collected the taxes from the town of Groton and the state of Connecticut, if I collected their tax revenue that's owed to me, my mill rate would be 3.25.
And what would that change to a person on a $200,000 house? Difference in what they would be paying?
It would cut their taxes almost in half.
Right.
The fire district taxes almost in half.
Right, which people can't afford.
Right.
And when you name off the areas that you're in a high-income area.
Correct.
We're not talking houses that are 300,000 plus.
They're very, very proud people.
Correct.
And I want to be very
Right.
cautious on how I speak.
No,
but they're very,
and
very
this is what
proud
they say,
people.
we can't afford it.
Yeah.
And they live within their means, and it's, they are working class, some of the neighborhoods and stuff. And in order for them to afford to do repairs and pay for trash removal and bulky waste, that's why I had brought up bringing bulky waste back, because people need help. So I want to see a way that we can support you guys 100%, and then some, but also offset the tax burden to the folks in that district that are suffering overwhelmingly. And how we do that, I don't know. And I guess to the town manager, if they were located somewhere else, would it change? Like, why do we put this in the area that's bringing in the least amount of taxes?
Well,
The district, the way it's districted.
Well, we
Can
don't have
change?
we don't have a say on that.
Is there a way we can redistrict?
At the,
No.
No. So there's no
We are the 3rd cousins of the town of Groton. We are our own municipality. Could you take us over? You could. There's quite a way of doing it, but I wouldn't say it's out of the question, but I'm pretty sure that the town in past, historically, doesn't want anything to do with fire service. You grant, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but that's truly what it is. I think it's something that you guys are going to want to really consider at some point, because I can really screw up. You're not my boss. I don't mean that disrespectfully, it's just that to me, I would want control of that, but.
Yeah, no, it just seems like there's definitely, I appreciate your honesty. And I think you guys need to be funded, and funded fairly and adequately, as well as making sure the people that you serve, because you are the backbone of the paid force, that, the community that's paying for it is paying the most, which is in one subsection of town. So I thank you for everything that you do, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's your year-over-year bottom line increase on your budget?
I'm sorry?
Do you have your year-over-year increase from last year's budget to this year's budget?
Yeah, the increase in this year's budget is $131,210.
Okay.
And 5 cents.
131,210.
Yep. I do have two copies. This is our proposed budget. It's passed my board. It still has to go to a vote. But I'm pretty confident that with a 2% increase, I'm pretty confident we'll pass.
Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna make a new motion. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion for $436,383.
I'll second it for discussion.
This is a motion by Melendez and a second by Bordelon. Okay, so this is an increase of $31,210. Essentially, we gave them 154, just to speak to it, we gave them $154,548 last year. This year, we will be giving, if this passes, we'll be giving them 185,000. I'm sorry, I got the wrong number. $285,758. That is an increase of $131,210, which is the same increase they have year over year. So since they have the same, essentially, property basis last year, we didn't do a reval this last year, and since we're giving them more, the mill rate in their mill rate should stay flat this year if this passes. That's my understanding. Would you have the same understanding?
I'd have to, I assume so.
Yeah. Just from my understanding.
The increase is the increase in the mill rate, so yes. My grand list hasn't gone down. It went up 1%, and we went up very little.
Okay.
That's before they get to challenge the appraisal. I forget the term. BAA is what it's listed as.
Okay, so essentially the point of my motion is to make sure the mill rate, the Quantic Bridge Fire Department district mill rate remains flat this budget year. Is there any discussion? Councilor Kasiri.
Chief, what is your hydrant fees again?
Hydrant fees are $99,512.
Okay. So this will cover your hydrant fees essentially and then just give you a little extra. Can you go over line item 10927 West Pleasant Valley for me? Is there a fire department in that?
No.
Okay. Mr. Burt, can you just explain that line item?
Say again?
West Pleasant Valley, why there's a fire district? Because there's no fire department in that.
Yeah,
They contract.
Is the city?
They contract to the City of Groton
Yeah.
Fire Department.
Okay. Well, we're going to take this up in the Public Safety Committee in a couple of weeks, so I look forward to being able to kind of break all this down, and I will be supporting Mayor Melendez's motion. Thank you.
Councilor Jones?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for the town manager. Is there a formula you use for distributing pilot funds?
As mentioned, this has stayed the same since basically it was created, and there is a formula that was supposed to have been used. It doesn't quite match it though, so I don't think they ever actually followed what they said as a formula. And I believe I've sent that documentation on to Councilor McBride for when it goes to committee, but they used a formula line based on land, et cetera, though each department got $1,000 up front. There was actually some mention here besides that. Then based something like land area or something like that, it was divvied up for the rest of it and then just never looked at again.
So the money, some portion of the money goes to the fire, some portion goes to the town?
For the actual fire, or for the general estate pilot dollars, it just comes to the town, yeah.
And then,
Because
how do you?
it was never designated, intentionally for, it's just for town use for us. The state sort of ignores the fire departments on that.
So you could divide it up any way that you want.
Yeah.
that state money, and then you
Yeah, you
just.
can do anything you want.
Do you have a formula that says, I'm just going to make up a number, 20% goes for fire districts? Is that the kind of formula that you have, or you just sort
Well,
of
it wasn't,
determined
it's
by?
not that simple. There's land area or, some things like that involved.
Okay.
And it should probably be re-looked at and a new formula arrived at.
Okay, so.
Though
you
we
look
would
at
use the same formula if you just up the numbers, if you agreed with the formula, if you think this is an equal distribution.
So you look at the amount of square acres that you have, or
Well,
the buildings that are
we don't
in
look
it.
year to year at that because, again, it's been static forever and it's come up many times and it's been kept static.
Do you have a reason, or do you understand, it jumped 1.7 million, then went 2.5 million in 20, for this year? What was and it's going back down to 1.5? You have
No, it's just what the state, sometimes they do more than they say. There's no rhyme
It's just
or
the
reason, and we have no
governor's
idea
budget.
till it happens.
So it's just the governor budget
Yeah.
deciding, we're just going to do this,
Yeah.
and we're going to do that,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of arbitrary how
Right.
it sort of comes. And so the next one, so this was kind of a fat year, and the next year could be really trimmed and skinny, and you're
Right.
not going to have a lot of stuff, so, okay, all right, I'm just trying to understand that.
Though I don't know if it'd go, too much skinnier than, like that lower amount 2 years ago or last year.
Right, I mean, it looks like it's going down, I mean, if you take
Yeah.
out the 2.5,
Yeah.
it's kind of going the wrong, even though the
I don't
state-
think that's a trend, though. I just think, it was only gonna be about 1.5 this year, I believe, and then 1.5, 1.7, somewhere in that range, and then it jumped up for what we actually received, so. Because we don't know what the state's final budget is when we have to budget. so,
When we do ours,
yeah.
theirs is after ours.
And, the state's still, working on their budget now.
Okay. And just so I understand your motion, so we're going from 254,548 to 285,758.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the right
That's, yeah, so the full 31,210 will go to 10921.
Okay.
So their mill rate will remain flat in that district.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, my increase in my budget is 131,000, not 31,000, 131,000.
No, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Right, I understood.
Because you had asked me about the mill rate, I just wanted to.
Understood, it's just because last year we also, we gave you 154,548.
Yep.
So if we gave you, the 285,758, that'll be 131 over. Because budgeted, we already had 100,000 over last year's, so for that difference was 31,000.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Franco? Wait, yes, Counselor Franco?
Thank you. And this is also why when our state legislators come to us, I constantly ask them to get full funding for the pilot money because I don't think the state sends us our full funding for pilot money. And that's something that I advocated for ever since I've been on the council. I've also attended the fire district board meetings. I've advocated for the trash pickup. And I understand why Quantic Bridge doesn't want to add it in because their mill rate would go up. And I can completely understand that. There's also a potential that there are some things that need to be sorted out on what a fire district should or could do or will want to do and what town responsibility could be as well. That's how I think of it. And I think these numbers have been static. We've had conversations with previous councils about what we could do, but as what was stated here today, really nothing's been done. It's the same formula, it's the same, and I mean, that's why over a year ago, I asked for a referral, because we have got to look at this. And as it's been stated, basically, it's been ignored. And I think that's a big problem. And I mean, we had to provide fire service to our community. This is how it's done. It's set up with state. You can't just change any kind of fire district, and because they have, state statutes and stuff that recognize them as their own taxing entity. But I think when one particular district is carrying a heavy burden, although their service is shared with the whole community at large, that something has to be done about this. So I very much welcome this conversation. It's something I have been advocating for quite some time, and I really can hope that with the remainder of this term, that we can come up with some kind of a solution on this one. And I thank you, Quantic Bridge, for being here today. And were all the fire districts invited to this meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly why, but this has also been an issue in the past too. For whatever reason, we invite them and they don't come, and I'm not exactly sure why. And that's something I'd like to figure out.
Well, I think part of it is because it never changes. I think that's a lot of it. They're used to not coming. Though, just to mention, when Mayor Hedrick was here earlier, he asked, well, we don't typically send someone, but should I try to get someone here? I said, at this point, don't worry about it. So just to make that clear.
Right, but in previous years, we've held back pilot funding as well, trying to get them to the table, and they still didn't come. Is that correct?
I know we threatened it. I think it's been done briefly, but it's always been given eventually.
Exactly. Because in all reality, they don't answer to us. So we can't really tell them what to do either. So anyway, with this budget item here, I'm in support of the additional. I'd like to help offset any kind of increase for that district. And I hope we can get support for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Bordelon.
I think this has been something way beyond my time in the council, just as growing up here, just something that just seems fiscally off, and it seems as if local government, even before the budget and the town manager makes his report, we should be sending a letter every year up to the state with conjunction with the Paquonic Bridge Fire Department and the town staff, stating that we are concerned, this is our demographics. We should just have something ready to go that we could be sending, and I think we should start with that, like every year, like before the manager's report comes out, have a letter ready fired stating our concerns of the demographics and the increases in what it's causing, and express the need for funding. In the meantime, I do think we need to look at this, but I have a major concern with, one area paying the amount of taxes they do for my protection on another side of town. So how much does the city give you any break on the hydrants at all?
No, sorry. That's the response I get, no.
We've asked.
We've asked, we've begged, we pleaded. Like I said, they would owe us in excess of $100,000 in taxes. So we pay them $100,000 for the honor to be able to protect their property. And we shovel the hydrants, we do all the work around the hydrants. So the only thing they do is they'll flush them, they test them. But we virtually, you'll see my fire engines out after a snowstorm clearing the hydrants.
And they don't give you any kickback on that at all?
No.
Not a penny,
They'll tell you they do it.
not a penny. I don't mean to smile at the expression, but that's how I've been
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me whatsoever.
No, there's a lot of things that don't seem to make sense, so.
I will tell you, and I'm sorry if I'm off subject, but the fire departments, the members of the fire departments and us, we get along fabulous. That you will not find a better class of people, a better group of individuals. We're talking finances and money and things. In my job, it's hard to do that, to get that across. I mean, Chief Richards, Chief Manfredi are very good friends of mine, and Chief Tompkins in the city, we get along great. And I do run my department in my municipality, but I also, I was on the phone with Town Manager Burt yesterday telling him there are a lot of trucks going to Westerly because of a major brush fire going on. So I try and keep the town as advised as best that I can as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's vital. I mean, and it needed, and the concern is the folks in that community are going to be taxed out eventually. I mean, they have a threshold income there. It's and they can't sustain. So this is definitely something that I guess the town manager, can we, it might not go, it might fall on deaf ears, we don't know, but I think beyond our state reps, we should send a letter to the appropriate people in the state level expressing our concern about the need for funding for, how our fire district is. Is that something we can start to do?
We can send a letter, but, it's not gonna have much impact, and they won't do it for one, it's gonna be for everybody. So generally, you're just gonna send a letter, you'll say someone what your challenges are, but please fund all pilot dollars everywhere to the full amount, is what the letter will say.
Do we send something now?
No, usually we just say it every year, and the CCM fights for it every year. There's a lot of people that fight for that, but the state's gonna budget what they're gonna budget, so we could certainly send a letter, but wouldn't anticipate an impact.
And do you guys go up and speak to it when they have their open public discussion to try to like really put the pressure on? Do we do anything from the town side to really
No,
speak for
we
the
haven't.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think we need
And the
to.
hard part is there's a lot of other grants too, we just don't have the staffing to do that. For instance, the city has a lobbyist that they share with GU, that if we were gonna start doing that, we should look at getting something similar.
Right,
Thank you.
Right, can I just also add that, CCM, we fund
We
them.
pay so they fight that
And
fight.
that's sort of our way of getting what we want and advocated for at the state level. That's one way we do that. So maybe staff aren't going up there and advocating, but CCM is how we do that presently.
And do we send like our wishes to CCM every year?
Yeah, they put out a draft, that's always on the list every time.
Okay.
That's always there.
Yeah, no, I definitely think this is very wonky and very concerning. I think as we try to, develop that area in the Paquonic Bridge District, we really have to think about what's going on and the tax base there and the support. And I definitely don't have the answers here today. If I did, it wouldn't change anything. I support the number that the mayor put down to offset for, thus far, but I look forward to more communication and seeing what we can do. And, maybe there's something on the city side where they could give some form of a kickback. Definitely, I'm going to ask, now knowing, and, there must be a way, because, I want the protection services that you provide, and I think that the utility costs on that it should be just a blanket understanding. Thank you.
Council Parker?
Question about mutual aid, because you guys tend to go to different areas, so you just went to Westerly, and last time you said something about New London.
Yes.
So do they give you guys something for helping them out? Because if you guys are leaving the area here, who's covering your area when you guys are out another fire?
So, we have a captain that is very, very good at grant writing. We've probably received $1.5 million in the past 3 or 4 years. The town radio system, our initial purchase was done by a grant through our department. The new one that's coming is a regional grant for the city. To be able to get those grant monies, you have to provide mutual aid. You have no choice, and you can't charge for it. So the short answer of your question is yes, they do pay us back, and we pay them back. The City of New London and Paquonic Bridge have been working a lot more together, honestly, because it goes back to what I said before. It's certified, qualified bodies being on the scene. I don't need their fire engine. I need the 5 firefighters that they're sending to me. The NFPA standard is 17 and 15 minutes have to be on scene for a structure fire. So that's why we utilize mutual aid so drastically, and that's why we're utilized, because we send 3 and we bring in 3 people on overtime to backfill.
All right, I just want the public to hear that this is what's going on. This is how you're doing mutual aid and why.
Yeah.
I understand that because I work at a municipality, so I
Yeah.
know what's going on, but the public does not know about this.
Yeah.
So it's nice to announce it to them.
It's what keeps the taxes down by the interoperability that we're doing right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Council McBride?
Thank you. I support this motion as well. I'm very supportive of what you're doing. Thank you. And I really look forward to working with Councilor Franco and Councilor Casari on that committee that's going to be set up, and I think we meet in a few weeks. So hopefully we can dig into some details and provide some guidance on what we think are maybe next steps. So I look forward to that. With regards to the pilot, just some other pieces of information. I'm involved in CCM, and I attend many of their legislative sessions on the pilot. And as John Burt mentioned, the CCM group is very much opposed to the pilot representation of the small amount that towns are receiving. And last year, the reason that excess came to Groton as well as other towns and municipalities and cities was because the rainy day fund was so large, so the governor got a lot of, let's say, heat for not being able to fund pilots. So that's why that additional came to the municipalities. And it's likely, or CCM, I should say, is pushing for that to happen again this year. And maybe that's something this council can consider if additional pilot funds come, where that money should go. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Something else with the pilot, I can't recall. But I guess one question, just for my own understanding, the 5.5 million budget, what other, 500,000 of it is the firefighters. What else is in the 4.5 million, just for my own understanding? Just high numbers.
So we put 150,000 a year into our reserve account, the equivalent of rainy day account for capital improvements. It's basically where we're trying to purchase the fire engines by small, so we can pay cash for them. We just purchased a fire engine that we paid cash for $500 and some thousand. Old Mystic went out for the same exact engine. It's over $1 million now in a matter of 2 years. When you talk about inflation, we're getting absolutely killed. A fire coat costs the same amount as a full set of fire gear did a year and a half ago. They look right at us and we're getting 20-30% increases, and it's horrible. When I go to make my budget, I'm getting 30-day quotes, and they're telling me they can't guarantee anything. So I'm throwing a budget together, and I'm having to try and spitball some of this stuff and go through. As far as the rest of it, it's again, consumables, electricity, fuel oil, supplies. We do training. Fire service is a lot different than the police service. We are very, very proactive in our training. We just rebuilt our training room so that we can actually utilize web-based training. So I can actually have experts from the West Coast conduct a class in my firehouse via Zoom, which is a huge cost savings to us. And it's incredible opportunities for our firefighters. Our fire department is very, very young right now. It's great because they're very, very dedicated. But boy, I tell you what, the hardest thing is keeping them that way because they want to be challenged and they want to go through the training. So training is another big number in there. There is mandatory training, but obviously it's covered during the day. Our guys work a 24-hour shift. They're not sitting around the firehouse. They're out training. If you see a fire engine out on the road, chances are they're probably going to a building and doing a walkthrough on it. Anything from pulling ropes down hallways so that they know how far a hose stretch is. We have that all pre-planned out. That's where a lot of our money goes. It's just that is the administrative side. I mean, we run a pretty tight number across the board on it. We do have some. Our department had a core of volunteers that had a retirement system that's roughly about $40,000 a year goes into that we're paying off. That eventually will be paid off shortly, probably in the next 15 years or so. I think where all the other numbers go to, it
adds up, right?
Yeah, it adds up quickly. It adds up very quickly.
Okay, well, thank you for that additional information. And back to the pilot, I just had another thought. Hopefully we'll get some additional pilot funds. And just for additional information, the CCM is advocating because all the towns throughout the state are, the governor is saying it's a flat, it's a flat increase in his budget. But what all the towns and municipalities are stating is that it's not a flat increase because you're not covering the cost of inflation. So CCM's advocating for more money through pilot because they're saying it's not a flat budget. You should at least cover the additional cost. So it's likely that the pilot will be increased. And if that happens, maybe this council can consider some options for you.
We appreciate that. We can't speak to the state on the pilot funds because the pilots go directly to the towns or to municipalities. But I have contacted DEEP, figuring Bluff Point, Haley Farm, all the state areas, telling DEP, listen, we need help, and they don't want to hear it. They don't care.
Well, thank you.
Frankly.
All right. Any further discussion? Councilor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, you mentioned the radio system. I know you're transitioning some radios to the statewide. What is your cost sharing portion of that?
My cost share is roughly $11,383 for that. That, just so you know, that's a it's considered a regional grant. That's all of the town of Groton that's doing it. The city of Groton is the host community on it. We were the host community the first go-around when we did that. And that total grant number is about 850,000, give or take a little bit. And that's an unfunded mandate by the federal government telling us that we have to get off of the frequencies that we're currently using in a certain amount of time. So that's how that's working out.
Thank you.
But it's all new mobiles, all new portables. None of the equipment we own now works, so we have to literally replace everything.
So you're almost forced to go on to the state
Yeah.
radio system. No, I agree. I think, I know Representative Conley, John, does reach out before every legislative session.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we do that with all our delegation in general, but we could just keep pushing on our end to make sure our delegation fights for our pilot funding. I'm in support of the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, so I'll call for a vote on $436,383. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon,
Yes.
Westervelt,
Yes.
and Jacome.
Yes.
Okay, so I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Sure, council will stand in recess at 11:10. Council's back from recess, 11:23, and we are on to human resources. That can be found on page 79, I believe. Yep, 78, 79. I will make a motion for $402,647.
Second, Bordelon?
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Bordelon.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Before we get started with some additional information, I'll go over some of the changes that you see here. In personnel services, it shows we're up about 11%, and you'll be familiar with some of these changes. A few months after I came in, I refilled my HR assistant position, and it was originally budgeted at the entry level, which in this day and age is not usually the way it goes when you have a hiring range. So I did bring that position up. And recently we had a discussion about reinstating a higher level position in my department, as it was before I came. So that's where that increase comes from. And then we have around 10% for operating services. And that is really generated 2 items. I've been working with certain departments from a best practices perspective to make sure that we're really doing background screenings and drug testing on a greater capacity of the folks that are coming in, so there is an increase there. And then on top of that, there's an increase in services for the people we use for that, backgrounds and drug screening. And then the other portion of that, I realized when I was going through the budget that 1095s, employers are required to send those out for health insurance. You use it for your taxes often, just so you can say, yes, you've had it for a certain amount of months throughout the calendar year. That actually is not individually budgeted in our budget. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I'm just actually writing it in there because it's something that's been required for some years now. So those 2 items are where that increase comes from on the operating services side. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Well, I'll jump on more to the conversational piece. So I know you had received a little bit of info a little while ago that I would be asking for an additional position in my department. So I wrote something up just to make sure I'm getting across to you why, and I'm not missing or forgetting anything. So if you'll bear with me while I read this to you. As you know, I've been here just over a year, which has allowed me time to observe where we are as a town and the services that HR provides. We've, of course, worked on many items throughout the year, and I realize with an expansion and adjustment to the team, we can continue to come into our own as a department and the services we provide. Many elements of our work are already implementing in an organizational design perspective. Org design can be reviewed, viewed as an evidence-based approach to effective changes for the org. In our case, they're called HR interventions. So that supports strategy, structure, and process. Or another way that you might talk about it is strategies and solutions to improve the employee experience. We're very concerned these days with attracting staff and keeping them, and supporting leadership and how they're effectively guiding their departments and the staff that are in them. Some common HR org design interventions may be individual, team-based, department staff design, performance management, diversity, wellness initiatives, developing our talent, our employees, as well as training and skills development. I want to iterate, HR is just not for hiring and firing and applying the procedure. I know that's how a lot of folks look at it, but there's so much more that we can do, especially as we're concerned with employee retention and attracting employees and the type of workplace that we are, and we've had those conversations before. We continue to work to provide more, and an additional team member will allow us to do so. So my ask is for an HR generalist position. This additional support, as well as realignment of duties with existing positions. In a small department, you have to be sure when you're bringing a new person in that you're appropriately dividing up the duties among everyone so that they're complementary as well to the overall goal. Beyond the HR interventions I mentioned, with the new position, we would focus on regular and appropriate training and assessing the need for training across the departments, improved and expanded information sharing and communication with all levels of our team, enhancing the employee culture, very important, revamping onboarding and designing what employee supports do we give to follow up, not only at our level, but the department level, and ensuring success as people come on. Leadership development, very important. Reviewing our total rewards as we strive to be competitive and an employer of choice, as I mentioned, and workforce succession planning, just to name a couple of areas. And I was thinking about this. When you consider, I heard commentary during these budget processes that salaries are 50%, I want to say, and when you add benefits in, it goes up to 80%. It makes sense to invest in what takes up so much of our budget and not have turnover and efficient processes, and how can HR partner with the departments to be successful when so much of our funds, taxpayer funds, go towards that. Makes sense to me anyway, it's my area. So we want to just enhance, develop, and maintain our workforces and the support that we provide. Before I get into any funding perspectives, do you all have any questions or comments from the general HR perspective?
I just have a point of information.
We're only allowed to speak twice through your whole discussion, so I
Okay.
might have some, but I'm just saving them.
I see.
We
Oh,
don't-
okay.
We only get twice, not per item.
Good
So I don't
point,
want you to
good
think
point.
I'm not, I definitely have,
Okay.
I want to respond to you, but we're allowed to speak twice at the very end of your presentation. Sorry.
Duly noted.
I wish we could have more dialogue.
Okay. So I would say for an HR generalist, I have a range. You probably know the non-unions, we have ranges and grades. So I've looked us to place this in the range that's 57,401 to 72,612. So the midpoint around that is about 65,000. And I think when we're budgeting for vacancies, it's my advice that we start budgeting at least at the midpoint, not at entry level, because that's not the market that we're working in anymore. So for me, I would say about 65,000 plus FICA. And then there would be moves for the existing staff, not only for realignment, but for continued growth, because we can't support that mindset if we're not doing it ourselves in our department. So there would be slight adjustment in title, yes, a little bit in salary, but not from a new position perspective, not nearly that amount of money. So that is my vision for moving forward and providing services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question about, yeah, on page 83, it breaks down like how many employees you have in each one. I see there's no budgeted HR coordinator, and there was one at least temporarily last year. And is that's not what you're looking to add, right? Or is
Correct.
it-
That's the vacancy we had discussed. It was brought down a level right before I started, and we had the meeting, we put it back up from a support and a appropriate level perspective. So that changed into the HR administrator.
Okay, so this changes, okay, so this will be gone on next year's budget? HR
Correct,
coordinator?
yes.
Okay. Okay, and then, I'm fully supportive of what you're proposing. I just want to know, there's gonna be a different, it's not, the person you want to hire is not under any of these ones.
That's
It's gonna be a
correct.
new
It
one.
would be an
Okay.
addition, and the title I'm thinking would be HR generalist. Of course, we look at the job description, but that seems to fit a broad spectrum and is often used in an HR office.
Okay, so I'll just say, opinion-wise, you currently have 4 people in your office, and you do a lot of work with 4 people, and I really do think, as you stated, this is where we need to be investing if we want to make sure, because we have issues, every town has issues with retaining talent, and when you don't have the ability to retain talent, that, not only is it bad in the sense of it's inefficient, where you got to keep training people to the same thing over and over again, it also is just more expensive. So I think if we want to invest anywhere to keep costs down in the rest of the budget, I really do think that this is where we should be doing that. So is there any other comments, questions?
How much was the total ask?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
The person you're asking for, we have to move a higher number in this budget, or
Right.
is it in this budget?
No, it's not.
It's
Okay.
not, it would, yes, be an
Okay.
addition. So with that midpoint, FICA, and then a small increase because of changing duties for current staff, it would be about 75,600.
Okay, and then the bottom line is 402,647. Okay, so let me just add up real quick. 75,600. Okay, so I'll make a motion for $478,247.
Second. Bordelon?
Sorry, I can't make that motion because I made the last motion. Could someone make that
can make the
motion?
motion.
Okay.
So I make a motion for $478,247.
Second, Jacome.
Okay. So I got a motion by Jones. Good second to Bordelon.
Can you repeat the number? I didn't get the end of it.
478,247.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Question? How many employees do we have overall? Is it
Currently, 246 as of yesterday, but we also have vacancies. So we have Well, there's a lot of
Closer to
part,
260-ish if we had every.
If we had everybody.
260, 265, yeah.
I just wondered if there's any sort of human resource standards of human resource employees to the 260 number. Is there a?
I would say if you're a standalone HR department, we also handle risk management. And I think people are looking for DEI to be driven by us, let's say. So it's not simply the HR paperwork that you're doing, where we have a couple of things under our hat. So I wouldn't use that for this.
So is there a ratio that people use when they're trying to figure out department sizes? Adding those kind of things together?
Jump online. I mean, it varies. What is a suggested ratio?
I was just looking up, some of the first numbers I get seem to be about, and that's without those extra duties, 2 per 100 people. So at the 250, 260, an additional position would reflect that without actually having enough to do it would still be slim or tight.
So we're staying kind of in, I'm just saying, we're kind of staying in industry ratios
Yeah, right.
of a municipality with the number of people
Right.
that we're not an outlier, or we're, if
Right.
anything, we're under
Right.
a little bit. So, okay, all right. And do you, I don't know if you do, do you work at all or support what goes on in the police department, social work, or, dealing with people, that kind of stuff?
We support the employees that are in the police department, and we also support efforts, I would say, for a couple of departments that are looking for accreditations, whether it comes from consultation and policies or thinking about succession planning, making sure that we have our HR handbook up to date, which there's a lot of stuff that needs
Right.
work, and some of what we do supports them being able to present better, to say that, yes, everything is in an orderly fashion, not only in their department, but in the departments that surround and support them.
Yeah, I'll reframe my question because I didn't say it right. It was really just
Okay.
supporting the human resources efforts in these other departments. So your department, I don't even know, do we have human resource people in our other departments? Or
No.
you're it?
No, we're
It's
for
everything right
everybody.
now.
You're it, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's really my question. Okay, that's fine, that's my question.
Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. You said that you guys would be, HR would be supporting the DEI, is that what you said?
I said, I think people look towards HR to really drive it. We had a resurgence, I will say. The last meeting we had was in December. We had some new folks come on board in different departments who were interested in DEI and also saw how it directly connected to their jobs, which was excellent. But everybody is volunteer, so I think sometimes we have volunteer burnout over the years, and until, I'll say, we get a DEI person, oftentimes it's couched under HR, and I think people look to that, and I'm not going to let it drop, so I will take that for now, but there's only so many hats to keep wearing for a smaller amount of people.
So this person would be taking over the DEI stuff?
No. They would help out with many different areas, and that's where the job descriptions that I'll bring back will show how everything is divided up. So it isn't just their job, I would say. A lot of this can be achieved by my different team members contributing. So this is not a DEI position. DEI, I think, is for everybody in HR to support. I will probably do a portion of it, but I need to be able to spread out the duties and have support to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems that I don't know, I don't know, I think the DEI thing is a mindset more than a position, obviously, as you stated. And I think it could be, as far as town-driven ideas, it should be under Parks and Rec purview, in my humble opinion. Obviously, you might guide it, you'd be doing DEI with employees, but as far as like town-driven overall, like things, I think that really should kind of come under the Parks and Rec division with some guidance as far as like activities and things in our community.
I think every department can and should support it, but there has to be one seat of somebody who's driving it and keeping an eye on it, and
Right.
And it has to be
being like-
accessible to all department heads, yeah.
Right, and it can be accessible, it depends on where this town chooses to put it, is where, I mean, it can be accessible and driven by any department. I mean, the police department can run it. I mean, anybody can run it. It's just, I don't know, I just didn't know if that's taking up too much of the time. I'm in full support of, HR being fully run. I agree with your statements that it is the to me, it's like, you get off, you go to a job and your HR is your first stop. So it has to be properly vetted, and staffing and retention and models and rewriting of things. I think it is very important. So I think having it properly staffed only helps with retention and training, with the except, bringing up the AED machines and things like that, finding outliers in our community where they were missing. Having those types of things on board where, staff are also getting accessibility. I was in the library and I was like, oh, there's no AED machine here. It's like, do you guys actually, they're like, no, we're not even trained on them. And it's like, that's something way before you came on. Yeah, way before you came. But something that me as a town person who's worked in the medical field for years, I was like, wow. So these types of things could enhance the overall quality of life for everybody. That should just be part of it. So I'm in full support of bringing somebody on in addition to your staffing to support. I did look at the numbers prior to coming and saw that, yeah, we're right there, 4.5, 5, depending on how the job's divvied up. So, and I welcome having you on board for the last year and a half, bringing a lot of, knowledge. I saw some of your other work and other things that you've done, and also bringing your natural ability to understand diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I am very excited to have you as part of the staff. So I look forward. I think you've done a lot in a year and a half, or was it been a full year and a half?
December 29th was the year.
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
So keep it up. Keep up the good work, and thank you for all that you do. I think it's really exciting. Thank you.
And I do want to clarify, when I mentioned a DI position in the future, it doesn't have to live in HR. It's my hope for the town to have one, but I think the support to get us just over that hump to get back on will be partnering with a lot of people. So just to clarify.
Yeah, I also think having, definitely having some hub for the staffing, but also having, I think Groton Parks and Rec does a lot of more of the outreach. So maybe with the support of HR, but you really want someone who's going to bring in, not that you can't, but bring in people in a different way that are naturally organizing community events. So for the community aspect, but yes, thank you.
Just to mention, if we do add one, it'd more likely be in my office. We've had some talks about it before, so likely it would be in my office if we do add one.
Thank you. Counselor Kasiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Director. I am very much in favor of your new position. Since I've been a counselor and since you came on board, we've had many conversations about problems with retaining employees in municipalities. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be a desirable thing to work in municipalities. And we need to ensure that the environment of Groton is a desirable municipality to work for. So I very much support any kind of help that your department can get, especially because municipality positions are generally very specialized positions, and kind of brings into the whole idea of other municipalities poaching for our employees. We've talked about it in the planning department, the police department. The fact that, I'll speak about the police just because that's what I'm familiar with, but the fact that we have a fully funded police department right now in the state of affairs is very impressive, and it speaks to the environment that we've created in Groton. So that's very impressive. And I will be supporting the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Franco?
My hand's down, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you just talk, you mentioned one of the reasons for adding the person was help with employee retention, and that we have needs. Can you just sort of talk a little bit about where are we lacking or what services have you seen that we're not able to deliver to employees that's affecting employee retention, and how this is going to help that?
I don't want to say the town of Groton is lacking. I think it's a good place. I think some of the work that can help support retention is culture. So some of it is intangibles, and culture can be many things. It can be respect. It can be enhancing the skills of the people that you have. It can be making sure they're in the right job. It can be promoting and helping with DI, with wellness. If people aren't okay in their own life, how can they be okay providing services here? What can we do to help? So some of this is delving deeper rather than surface level in many of these areas. Leadership development, I think, is equally as important as well. So there's multiple avenues that you can come at it, because it's not always just money of why people leave or why they're satisfied. I know it's a little more limited with the unions to look at job design, but these are the different things that make up an employee's workday and makes them want to come to work, is the team and the respect and the overall mission, if we're good at putting forth what that might be.
So is it sort of a responsiveness on the side of the town to service town employees who may have some issue or question or something? That there's a person, that there's an additional person there that can help with all those issues.
There's an additional person that can support everything that I've talked about, some of which we're at baby steps of getting towards. So when you have just 4 folks, it's very limited, and you don't want to be just putting out fires. You want to be assessing and looking forward and being proactive, because that lends to a better environment for an employee to be in, just period. And that's why I say some of it is intangible, but it's just as important besides the money and the benefits. And total rewards is something to look at as well, but it should be complementary, not just focusing on one thing and, just trying to get by because you have this volume of items with so many people, and sometimes you do have to prioritize things.
So just raising employee salaries isn't necessarily
Not always.
a motivator to keep somebody.
I know it
in
is a
their job.
factor, but people want to feel respected and valued, and they want their work to have importance or meaning. They want to be heard. They want to be a part of the team. Like, there's a lot of different things that you can go with the hard items, so to speak.
And what kind of person are you looking for that would fill a position like this? Because it seems like it needs to be a more experienced person than it's not, certainly not an entry
I
level.
would say it's not entry level. I would agree with that, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor Jacome.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I can't 100% agree with the culture and the environment. That's the biggest thing. I mean, that's what everybody's coming into, working 8+ hours a day, kind of dealing with day to day. Do you have any specific projects that you will be handing off to them, you think, or something I know that is very big on your plate right now, or you could use some assistance on?
I think labor. I would say labor contract interpretation, and that is really for the vacancy that's already there. So a little bit of it may bleed into this generalist, because this generalist should be able to support everyone. But until I sit down and write out all the job descriptions and kind of spread out the duties and map out now with an extra person, how are they going to be aligned? I don't have a particular list, let's say, that's going to be off my plate, so to speak.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, Counselor Bordelon?
So this would bring you up to 5?
Correct.
5 employees. And at some point then, you said you'd be rewriting the job descriptions as well.
Well, I'd have to create one for this one, and then for the 2 folks that are here, there would be tweaks, because everybody will be raised in level and expectation as well. So now that we have the room to navigate a little bit, assuming this passes, would have the room to navigate a little bit differently with an additional person, the duties may shake out a little bit different, and particularly if there's a higher expectation for folks. So it wouldn't be a complete rewrite for the 2 that are already there.
Right, and I think it's always good in any form of municipality or in jobs in general to have rooms for growth. And so adding this position adds room for growth, as well as, long after you're gone, the person second in charge there that's learning might want to step up, or it gives it more of a tier system. And in your absence, I mean, not wishing you any ill health or anything, but vacation, hopefully, a vacation or something like that. It's important to have someone that is running the town in the same capacity as the person who's absent. Maybe they might not be nearly as 100% as proficient, but they could do the day-to-days and everything's set up for them. So that would be another achievable goal that this position would provide. This position would also provide the ability to go down a position in the event that there was someone vacated a position too. So that person would be trained enough to cover in the interim until you guys filled the position. So when you redivvy up things in between the 5, you know, if you have a vacancy, like say 2 people, one retires and one decides to go to a different position, you know, you got to flex and bend. So you have more bending and flexing when you have a staffing of 5 versus the 4 as well.
True, and I think it depends where we are with initiatives, and just, you always assess every time an opening comes, what is appropriate.
Right, right. I think it's a great, opportunity. I think it's very important and vital. Again, I'm not sure the DEI solely has to be housed in
Agreed.
HR. I do think HR should have its own separate DEI that's driven for the town employees and have their own incentives that you guys are doing. I think the more publicized DEI that I envision is, you know, driven in the scope of like Juneteenth, for example. I'll be sending my referral, I have it typed up, but what are we doing for Juneteenth? We're gonna have a parade, towns are having parades. That's more of a Parks and Rec function with the support of HR. But I really think, you know, I don't know, I'm excited, I support the addition, and thank you again for all your hard work.
Thanks.
Counselor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment a little bit about what Counselor Jones had brought up about pay. You know, you're the expert in your field as the Director of Human Resources. Is it fair to say that people in the more specialized positions would actually be willing to take pay cuts to go to other municipalities if they felt that municipality was going to provide for them in the other areas where it was lacking?
I think so. I think salary, it also depends where you are in your life as an employee, but salary
Right.
isn't the only decider, depending on how you're feeling about going to work every day and who you're working with and how you're treated.
Great, and it just goes to show how important this new position is to make sure that we are kind of creating that environment in Groton to retain our employees, so thank you.
Thanks.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, I'm seeing none. So I will call for a vote on $478,247. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Melendez is yes, McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon,
Yes.
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
All right, so I have 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay, we are on to insurance and claims. 1070, beginning on page 84.
Make a motion for $950,750.
Second, Jacome.
Okay, motion by Parker, second by Jacome.
Okay, this one is a little bit more straightforward. The overall increase was about 10.6%, and based on the advisement of our broker, we did use a 10% estimate for increases for insurance. We are actually in the season to go back out for bidding, so to speak. So we'll know a little bit closer to the end of this fiscal year what the numbers are coming in at. Last year, we used a range from 10 to 17%. There was just a little more volatility, wondering about cyber. We had a change in some of the property, so this year is a little bit more stable, so the recommendation was about 10%.
All right, any questions, discussion?
Quick
Counselor
question.
Jones.
I'm just looking at line item 1073, the Shellfish Commission. What, can you just talk about what the insurance has to do with that commission?
Yes, so they have 3 boats, and actually, I was in contact with them this week. They just recently decided they're getting rid of one of them, and that comes with a trailer and the motor because it's insured separately, so it's kind of like a set. So we just found that out this week, so I anticipate if we get it in time for the renewals, that this might go down a little bit.
Okay, so it's just one of our divisions that just, it has risk and it needs insurance that goes with it.
Yeah,
a
we
couple of
appoint
those.
the Shellfish Commission, yeah.
Okay. And does this just include town employees or are all of our insurance liability issues, like for the police and things are in here? Is everything in here? Or-
Yes.
It's all,
So this is all the risk management insurance, the town's portion, yeah.
okay. All right, great. I just see there's boilers in here. We're always buying boilers. So. Whenever I see a boiler line, I'm like, oh no, here goes another boiler. So, all right, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'll call for a vote on $950,750. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones? Yes.
Melendez is yes. McBride?
Yes.
Bordelon?
Yep.
Westervelt?
Yes.
Jacome?
Yes.
Okay, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. All right, on to self-funded plans, 1071.
I'll move $11,972,886.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Kasiri, second by Parker.
Okay, so there is quite a bit in here. I don't know if we want to go everything line by line, but I will say, one of the notable items is that we did recently complete an RFP for health insurance. So we did put out bids, we had a few responses, and we actually worked with Anthem, who we have currently, for a lot of cost savings. So you'll notice it's not a huge amount as it could be. One of the things is we didn't have to budget for lasers, which is right there, a few $100,000 savings. So that was a good outcome. We also did take a look at partnership, just from a best practices perspective. We look at it every few years. We're still unpacking that, but at first glance, moving employees and retirees, it's not a benefit for us from a cost perspective. So just to note.
Okay. Counselor Jones?
Thank you. I'm just more of an information question. I'm not advocating changing anything you're doing here. Just can you explain, we use the self-funded plan. Can you explain the benefits of why we use that plan and if what would happen to our costs if we went to the, I guess, the how, like I buy my insurance on the outside market, so that kind of plan, I guess.
So we are claims-based, to your point. We have high deductible health plan, and really we feel it gives us the opportunity to have influence on the outcomes. So some of that is wellness. We want folks to be as well as possible so that the claims are not negatively affected. We can manage and budget for a little more flexibility than being totally premium-based from, let's say, Anthem does offer premium-based items. They're looking at an overall scope and what percentage are they going to hand down for us. We're able to have a little more control, let's say, with carving out certain things and how we approach things.
Is it a cost savings for us to not have to have a self-funded as opposed to a premium?
Yeah, I would say even with the partnership, we looked at that, and I know it works out for some folks, but because we have both retirees and actives in there, it does not work for us, that premium-based package that they have, I'll call it.
Okay. And is the self-funded plan the sort of the way that municipalities usually go, or they could go the other way?
I can't say the percentage in the state of Connecticut that are self-funded or not. I don't know what the percentage is. I know many have high deductibles, high deductible health plans. That was just a change over the years, a necessitated change, but I don't know the percentage. I could ask our broker. She probably has a good idea of like what the.
I will just mention every place I've been had a self-funded plan.
Okay.
It's just the way to do it, so. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions, discussions? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'll call for a vote on $11,972,886. Counselor Kasiri,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Franco,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Melendez is yes. McBride,
Yes.
Bordelon,
Yes.
Westervelt,
Yes.
Jacome.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining.
Motion to recess?
Second.
I got a motion to recess by Counselor Jacome, second by Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. We are adjourned at 11:59.
Thank
We are
you.
recessed.